In this video, I'm going to show you how to catch on these 3 little beauties, how to catch loads of big carp and hopefully win you more matches. So we're here today at Meadowlands Fishery, one of my new favourite venues. I haven't fished it until this year, and I don't know how I've avoided the place because it's brilliant. Loads of big fish, great big lakes like this, loads of big carp, skimmers, bream, roach, everything. But here today, just a simple bit of bomb fishing. So I've got one rod and the bait choice. I've got some 8mm fishery pellets, plenty of pellets with me. 8mm, obviously to get the distance out there. Plenty of noise. On big lakes like this is what these fish are used to eating. They used to come into the noise of these things hitting the water, and hopefully constant bit of loose feeding throughout the day. I'm getting a few liners there. Hopefully that'll draw a few fish in the peg into one area. I'm just going to catapult these where I can comfortably catapult them straight in front of me. But I've also got the option. Today we're going to have a little bit of mess around, swapping between different lead sizes, because we might potentially be fishing a what we call a tea bag or a PVA bag out beyond the feed. I'm getting loads of liners here, it's hard to concentrate. Loads of fish here at Meadowlands, but when we're not catching on this bomb line where we're loose feeding, potentially we could hook on a heavier bomb with a nice sort of parcel of bait, a little PVA bag full of 4mm fishery pellets, and sometimes that can be enough attraction just to get a bite beyond your loose feed when you can't get a bite in amongst your feed. So there's a few different options about how we're going to fish. We've also got a few different hook baits. Obviously 8mm pellets are going to be the #1 hook bait, maybe 1 or 2 of these on a hair, just to match the hatch and what the fish are feeding on. But I've also got a few other options. I've got some paste mixed up. All I've done is mixed up a bit of match method mix into a bit of paste, and what I might do then is just wrap sort of you know, maybe a 50p piece around an 8mm pellet. Sometimes that can be a real big sort of attractive focal point, and sometimes when you've got fish in your peg and liners like I have in a minute, sometimes you chuck a big lump of that out and you can get a bite straight away. It's amazing. So there's a few different options. I've also got a few wafters and things with me to try, and I've also got some bait booster as well. Like I said, we might be fishing a PVA bag today, and sometimes I like to dip my PVA bag in sort of a bit of bait booster or a bit of attraction. Sometimes a bit of haze can be good, but we've got bait booster today, and that would be a great option if we're fishing a PVA bag, just to have that bit of attraction, because obviously we might be chucking it out further. Not going to be any loose feed out there, but we've got that attraction and smell in the water from the bait booster that could get us a bite. So they're the sort of bait options we've got for today. Really simple. I'm going to keep loose feeding these pellets over the top. So all I'm doing at the minute, I've got sort of between 4 and 6 pellets, just 3 at a time at the minute. Just keep a bit of noise on the water. The great thing about feeding sort of 3 or 4 pellets at a time, you're not overfeeding, but you're making lots of noise. But like I said, I'm getting lots of liners at the minute, so it might be that we have to change our feed, but we'll come on to that in a minute. Different styles of feeding, and I'm waiting for that tip to go round, but I'm not quite sure if it's going to. But what we'll do now is I'll reel in, if I can get the time without a fish pulling it in. We'll reel in, have a look at the rod, have a look at my setup, and see what tackle we're using. today we're on a big bit of water. Obviously I mentioned I might be fishing a PVA bag out further, so I've got an 11-foot Superior X rod which lets me fish anywhere, and it can handle great big fish like the ones in Meadowlands today. All I've got on my reel is some 8-pound sinking feeder mono, and then this setup is how I like to fish my bomb setup. So instead of an inline lead, I've got these new style leads running freely on my main line. Obviously a lot of fisheries are free running, so I've got a free running setup. All I've got on my line here to begin with is a link swivel, so you know, I can change my bomb just by opening it up, taking it off, swap to a lighter bomb, a heavier bomb, depending on how I'm fishing and how I want to present my hook bait. Obviously with a heavier bomb, you get more of a bolt effect, and when a fish picks the bait up, they're more likely to get hooked. But on the downside to a big bomb, obviously it makes a big crash when it hits the water, so obviously that's not good. So you've got to sort of you know, play it by ear. Sometimes a really light bomb can be really effective at not spooking the fish, but it's not going to be as good as hooking the fish because you haven't got that bolt effect. So I've got it free running on a link swivel just on my main line. And what I like to do here, I've got one of the 360 beads. I've just chopped the stubby end off of it, so I've got like a cap, and what that is, it's just a cap, sort of a buffer bead if you like, and it goes on the end of my link swivel. It's actually called a quick change swivel because it's got that bit of rubber over the end, and all I need to do to change my hook length is slide that bit of rubber back, take it off that hook, and you know, I could maybe thread on a PVA bag on a different hook length, maybe get some different hook baits ready to chuck out, and all I need to do, hook on that hook length, slide that rubber sleeve down, and we're ready to go. Obviously the beauty with that swivel is you've got that swivel effect, so you're not going to get spin ups on the line. It's pretty foolproof and tangle proof, so that's how I prefer to fish these style of leads. My hook length today, I've got about 12 inches of 017 power, really durable hook length material, and I've got a size 12 MCM hook, nice big hook. Obviously we're catching big fish hopefully today, and all I've got there is a band on a hair. And what I've done with this one, actually, I've actually got 2 bands on, so all I've done there is I've tied another band on the end of the other band, and what that lets me do is try different styles of hook bait, so I can fish a double pellet or a single pellet, whatever I want to do, because I've got 2 bands there. So I'll just show you. Sometimes easier with a banding tool, but I can do it just like that. So there you go, 2 pellets on the hair. And talk about the hair length as well. When I'm bomb fishing, I tend to prefer a longer hair. That's just harder for the fish to deal with. And then I'll alter that length depending on sort of how long my hook length is. So the shorter the hook length, I tend to go the shorter hair. So what, you know, when I'm fishing a method, if you like, I've got a really short hair. But when I'm fishing with lots of line on the bottom, just having that longer hair above the hook just makes it harder for the fish to deal with when there's sort of that lot of slack line on the bottom. And you'll find if you've got a hook that's really close to that hook bait, sometimes you can miss a few bites, you get a few sharp pulls and they don't hook themselves, but by having that longer hair, for some reason, it's harder for the fish to deal with and you end up with more hookups, I find. So longer hair when you're fishing on a bomb, obviously shorter on a method or shorter hook lengths, but that's my starting gambit, if you like. I'll just put double pellet on there. So I mentioned the weights of the bombs as well. So we've got a 30 gram on there to begin with because we just had a PVA bag on. But what I'm going to do now is come back into my loose feed. So I'm going to opt for, say, a 20 gram. There we go, 20 gram. This one's a cube. Obviously there's lots of different styles available in the range. So see with that 20 gram, it makes less of a splash in amongst my loose feed, hopefully where the fish are. Just going to loose feed a few over the top while I'm talking. And I mentioned there's a few different styles within that range of bombs or leads. So you've got the cube, like I've just chucked out there. Obviously with a cube, it's not going to roll around as much. Ideal for fishing sort of on slopes, or where you don't want the lead to move as much. Obviously on silty bottoms with that flat bottom, I feel like it's going to sit on the silt a bit more with that style of lead. And then you've got sort of my favourite style, which is the distance lead. Obviously the benefit with that is it's really streamlined. It's got these tiny little flat spots, so it does sort of sit on one spot and doesn't move as much, but it's really streamlined. It means that you can get away with a lighter bomb for the distance that you're fishing. And the beauty of this, it's streamlined, so it's not going to make as much splash as say the cube would. So this is sort of my sort of go-to all year round, if you like, especially in winter when you want to use a lighter bomb. I think this is only sort of a 7 gram, this one, is it? Yeah, 7 gram. So that's going to make hardly any disturbance at all. And then you've also got, within the range, best of both, the pear. So we've got a streamlined pear shaped, but it's nice and flat as well, nice and stable. It's got an anchor on the bottom, nice and flat, so the fish isn't going to rub against it. So you've got a few different options there, 3 different sort of shapes: cube, the pear, and the distance lead. A few different options depending on what you're doing and what you prefer. Obviously my preference is normally a distance lead, to be fair. And you've got plenty of different weights, up to sort of 45 gram. We were fishing a 45 gram earlier, just for when I'm casting like a PVA bag, just to get that weight and distance to get the bag out there. But hopefully, with a bit of loose feed going over the top, we'll get a few bites. Keep the bait going in. Obviously we started at a comfortable distance, just where I can loose feed a few 8mm pellets. Obviously if the wind gets up, I still want to be able to hit the distance, so I'm not going a million miles out, just a sort of gentle, what's that, maybe 25 metres, something like that. Nice and comfortable where I keep the bait going in. Nice simple today, nice and relaxed. 1 rod, hopefully we get a few pulls. So, you may notice I've got my rod locked up in 2 rests. I've got a front rest there. It's all tightened up nice and secure, so it's not going anywhere in case we get a savage bite. Some of the bites can be savage, especially here at Meadowlands. Some great big fish can charge off into the middle of the lake. So having 2 rod rests, 1 at the rear, I've got a rear gripper butt rest, hold the end of my rod in case I'm not concentrating. Also what I like to do is just slacken off the clutch a little bit, so if a fish does take the line and charge off, it's not going to pull my rod in. It's only happened once to me. I don't want to have it happen again, but it just means we can be nice and relaxed. Rod's all set there, safe. It's not going to get dragged in. And while I'm talking to you, I can have a bit of peace of mind. So I keep loose feeding over the top. Just a case of building the peg. I'm not going mad with the feed initially because I don't want too much bait in the peg. It's just about attracting a few fish that are passing by. They drop down on that loose feed, have a bit of a munch for a little bit, and then it's just sort of a case of building the peg constantly. I was getting a few liners just before we started talking. Obviously that sort of lull in the loose feed going in, the fish have drifted off a little bit, but if we keep on feeding, the fish will drift back again, hopefully. Right, so one little tip I've got for you. Fish have just drifted off a little bit, which happens on a big lake like this. One little tip is to try a PVA bag, just sort of beyond where you've been fishing. So all I'm going to do, I'm going to change my hook bait quickly. Just got a single 8mm pellet there. I'm actually going to change my bomb as well. So the beauty of these bombs with a link swivel, just takes a few seconds to swap bombs. So I'm going to pick a heavier one out. So we're going a bit further. Let's try a distance bomb in a 45 gram. So I can chuck it right out with a PVA bag. And the thing is, with a heavy lead, it's not going to spin up on the cast as much. So I'm going to cast a bit further with that distance lead. Got an 8mm pellet on the hook. Pick out one of my PVA bags that I'm covering up with a towel just to keep them dry. I'm just hooking it on. Obviously I could use a baiting needle to thread it on, but it's just quicker just to hook it on. One other little tip, I mentioned earlier the bait booster. Obviously that gives it a bit more attraction, so let's try the pink fluoro one. Just going to dip it in. Obviously you've got all that flavour there, bit of visual attraction, and all that flavour oozing through the water when you chuck out. You can see it dripping off there. Loads of attraction. I'm going to chuck it out beyond where I've been fishing. Nice little lob. See, with the heavier lead, it doesn't spin through the cast, it takes the bag out with it. So that's the beauty of changing between the sort of lead sizes. Just going to set it up same as before. I'm going to slacken off the clutch in case I'm not paying attention. Just add a liner straight away then, but hopefully that bag will be breaking down now. Obviously if you're fishing in deeper water, adding sort of bait booster or haze can slow down the breakdown of the PVA as well and let you get to the bottom without it breaking up. That should have sort of broken up now and left a little portion of the sort of smaller pellets around my hook bait. Hopefully a carp comes along, takes it all up in one go, and sometimes that can get you a quick bite. It's just worth you know, chucking maybe off to the side or a bit further out from where you've been fishing. I've just noticed as well, I've chucked a bit further out beyond my feed. I'm starting getting line bites again. So, I mean, those fish can be anywhere between my bomb and my tip. There you go. That demonstrates how quick they can come to the bait booster. Obviously, we had a bit of a lull in the main swim. And with that bit of attraction from this horrible looking stuff, we've got a bite. There's something about it, especially this time of year when the fish are really feeding, that the fish really like and switch on to. And as you can see, I barely switched I didn't have time to switch my stopwatch on. Pretty much within a few seconds and the rod's gone around. So something a bit different now and again. Obviously it's great to have a bit of bait booster with you, sort of a change. Draw fish straight to your hook bait. Sometimes when the fish have backed off a little bit, or maybe it's in the middle of winter when you're just fishing sort of a single bag out in the middle of the lake and want a bit of attraction. It's definitely worth having in your armoury. And I think I'll be taking this pink one, although it looks ridiculous, to a few more matches, because there's something about it that these carp like, definitely. It's kiting down the edge. Give it a bit of side straight. Don't snag me down the edge, please. Ooh. The fish in this lake at Meadowlands are big old warriors. Nice mirror carp, that one. So it pays to make the changes. Obviously, there's obviously a few fish in amongst my loose feed, but now and again it's worth having a cast out further. Whether it's with a PVA bag or not. There we go. Nice big Meadowlands carp. Nice chunky fish. See if we calm him down. Nice here in the corner of the mouth. There we go. I won't hold him up, he's a bit lively this time of year. I'll slip him back. So like I said, I've just had that fish out beyond where I was loose feeding, but at the same time, it's always worth keeping the bait going in and dropping back onto that line again. So hopefully, if I loose feed a few Bomb Pellets where I've been feeding them, then now we can drop back onto that line. If we don't catch any fish, we can try a bag again. So it's worth bringing in the changes. So I'm gonna try a double pellet this time. Nice standout hook bait, 2 8mm on the hook. Just band them on. And before I chuck out this time, saying that, I'm actually going to swap my bomb again, so I'm going to take this off because we had a heavy lead out further. Slip a lighter 20 grammer on. And before I chuck out, I'm just going to loose feed so I know whereabouts I've been fishing. I'm going to drop this bomb right in the middle of it. What can actually happen when you've loose fed and chucked over the top, you can get really quick bites sometimes. Sometimes they're expecting it to fall through the water and you can get really quick bites just as it hits the bottom, but that's gone in, down on it. Oh, there we go. What was I saying? You can get a really quick bite just as it hits the bottom. So it's always worth loose feeding before you chuck out, because that fish was obviously looking for that loose offerings coming through and it's followed it straight down. So if this was a match situation, I'd assume that it's key to keep that loose feed going in. So when this fish calms down, I might loose feed a few more, but this one's charging out into the lake. Just gonna let it go. Got nice durable tackle. So got that 11-foot Superior X. Can bend into some great big lumps on this rod. Got plenty of power in the butt, but really soft. Even if we're catching sort of skimmers, this rod's all right. Nice action on it. And we've got 8-pound, really durable main line. Obviously at Meadowlands, these fish fight really hard. There's also the odd sort of snag and rock around, so it's worth having durable tackle. And they're big fish as well. So I'm not going to rush, it's just nodding back. Just keeping the rod nice and low. That's the thing when you're playing carp, they quite often sort of pull against you, so by keeping the rod low, it keeps the fish up in the water until it's close to you, and then it's already sort of up in the water within netting range, and it's not sort of digging down under the rod so much. The fish is already up in the water, but this feels like quite a nice fish. Actually, it's making me arm ache, especially after the other fish. Just going to charge off again. Just let them go. Go crazy this time of year sometimes, especially these bigger fish. Take my time with it. I want to loose feed a few, but I also want to get these fish in, so just going to see if I can loose feed some over the top while I'm playing it. Keep a few fish interested. Hopefully when we get this one in, eventually, there's a few more fish waiting for us out there. So, and it also shows how sometimes recasting can be effective, because that fish obviously dropped down on that loose feed, saw it sort of land on the bottom, and it's taken it straight away. So it might have even taken it off the bottom just as it was dropping down. So we've got a quite long hook length, so that's potentially what sort of happened. Just saw the bait dropping down and it's taken it. So it's also worth experimenting with different hook lengths as well, because it's amazing how often you can get bites on a drop. So sometimes putting like an 18-inch or 2-foot hook length can get you those extra bites, and sometimes it's bigger fish. This feels like a bigger fish compared to the last one. I'm not going to rush it. See, if this was a match, you might only need 10 bites, and if they were all double figure fish, you'd have over £100 with 10 fish. So worth making every fish count. I also changed the bomb size as well for this fish. Oh, there it is, wallowing out there. So we dropped down to a 20 gram, a lighter bomb than we had on with the bag, just so it didn't spook the fish that were already there, and it obviously shows. It didn't spook this one because this one took it straight away. Big old fish just kiting along there. It's got his fin out of the water. Make sure my clutch is nice and loose, because I felt like he was going to charge off and he's just started to. It's important when you're playing big fish like this, that you do have a nice clutch on your reel, just in case the fish charges off and it's not putting too much pressure on the hook hold. It's just kiting around this one. Just holding there, he's not even really fighting. Ooh. It's like a shark with his fin out the water. Got some power to him. I've not actually fished this lake that often, but when I have, it's surprising how hard some of these fish fight. It's unbelievable. There's some big old fish in this lake as well. It's a great place to come and pleasure fish if you ever get the chance. Really simple tactics today. One rod, tub full of pellets, and we've got a few different tweaks and things we've tried, and they've all seemed to work. It's fighting like a stonk, this one. It's making my arm really ache. Here we're gonna get him. We're gonna get him. There we go. Ugh. Lovely chunky fish, that one. Right, old Meadowlands warrior. See if we can get him out. There we go. Bit bigger than the last one. Nice hook hold there. There we go. Let's slip that one back. And hopefully we've got a few fish in the peg now. See if we can catch one or two more. So before I cast out this time, just going to loose feed again, because we were playing that one for quite a while. The wind's getting up now. So same again, we had 2 pellets on that time. I think sometimes when you put 2 pellets on, it sinks that bit slower, there's a bit more resistance there. So that fish obviously had it on the drop, so it's worth playing around with. I've also got a tub of wafters there, so it might be worth playing around with putting a wafter and a pellet on together. Sometimes that can be effective, and it's also going to sink a bit slower. So let's try it again. Fill the pouch up, 3 or 4 pellets. I'm going to feed a couple times and then cast over the top. So we've got a 20-gram bomb on. It's nice and windy, but it's not gone in with too much of a splash. Keep my eye on the tip in case it goes straight around. Lock my rod in. Just going to loosen my clutch. So that was a hectic few minutes. Hopefully they'll give my arm a bit of a rest now and I can recover. I'm just going to keep loose feeding over the top, keep building the peg. Obviously on a big fish, like a big lake like this, the fish can drift in and out at any time. You can get a flurry, have like a 30-minute manic spell, and then you might go an hour without a bite, but when the fish are that big, it doesn't really matter. It's all about building your peg, keeping a few pellets falling through the water, keeping active. So I mentioned before, I've got 2 pellets on at the minute. All I do to put another band on the hair is simply just tie it onto the other band. So I've got some 017 on my side tray here, 017 power line. All I do, I've got a spare hook length here. Simply grab a band. I've just dropped my hook length there. Where is it? There it is. Right, simply just grab a spare band, thread it onto that piece of 017. Doesn't have to be 017, it's just what I've got with me. I just simply tie it on the end of the other bands. So I like to do a bit of a figure of 8 knot, so just tie that into a figure of 8. But I tighten it so it's quite nice and tight against the other band. So I've got both ends of that bit of line, tighten it nice and tight up against that band. Trim the 2 tag ends off. What you've got there is 2 bands on the hair. Obviously it gives you the option of fishing 2 pellets on there, or if you want to really make sure that your single pellet doesn't come off, you've got 2 bands to use on the same pellet, so it means that it's never going to come off. It's a bit fiddly sometimes, so it can be easier to use a bander tool. There we go, I've got 2 bands on the same pellet there, or simply put a band in each pellet. There we go. Dead simple, quick and easy to change. It means I haven't got to have loads of different hook lengths tied up. Obviously I want to experiment with the hair length. You know, I've got my hands free at the minute, I can tie a hook within seconds just to make the changes, but nice simple way of fishing 2 pellets on the same hook length without having to retie. So nice quick and easy way to change. And I keep the loose feed going in. Hopefully we get one more to show you to finish the video. There we go, that one's running off. Hopefully it's a nice big chunk to finish on, but hopefully you've picked up a few different tips and techniques to fish on the bomb. The only thing I haven't really touched on is the feeding. So sometimes if you think that you've got fish in your peg and they're a bit hard to catch, sometimes you can change the feeding. So where I've been feeding sort of 3 or 4 pellets at a time, you could change that to say feed in 6, 7, 8 pellets, but do like 3 pouches all in one go and then wait a bit. And what that means is all that bait's going down to the bottom in one go. It's sort of concentrating the fish down on the bottom. Sometimes the fish come up in the water, okay, you can catch them on a pellet waggler doing that, but sometimes just changing your feeding, like burst feeding, and putting a volume of bait down on the bottom can help you catch on the bomb when you know you've got fish in the peg. So like everything, it's worth playing around with, different hook baits, different feeding, chuck to different areas of your peg, and hopefully you have a nice session like we've had today. This one's plodding along. Fight really hard at Meadowlands. Definitely made my arm ache today. But yeah, a great tactic all year round, bomb fishing. With the new bombs as well. Obviously this setup in particular with a link swivel, just free running, is how I sort of tend to fish all year round on a bomb really. Sometimes I might fish with an ICS stem if it's convenient, but with that link swivel I can swap and change between bombs throughout the session, and this range of bombs means that there's something that's going to suit the conditions and the time of year. Obviously you can fish them little tiny bombs in the middle of winter when the fish are really spooky, see a 7 gram or maybe a 15 if you need to if it's a bit windy, or this time of year I tend to stick to the sort of the 20, the 30 and a 45 gram, and obviously you've got a few different shapes there depending on what your preference is. Some people like a cube, some people like a more of a traditional Arsley shaped bomb, like a distance bomb, and obviously there's a pear lead there as well. Something for everyone in the range. This one's another big chunky Meadowlands carp. Nice fish to finish on. Ooh, yeah. Probably the prettiest one of the day as well, to be fair. Gorgeous looking fish, that one. Don't know if they let me hold him up, but it's a really pretty fish, that one. Not going to mess around with it too much, but I'm just going to show you to finish. Hopefully you picked up a few tips. Nice chunky Meadowlands carp there. Put this one back. Don't forget to like and subscribe to Preston YouTube channel. There's more content like this and more fish like this, hopefully. Let's put him back.